It is 3 in the morning. The world outside is completely silent, resting in the calm rhythm of sleep. But inside your mind, something very different is happening. Your thoughts are loud, restless, and impossible to ignore. You stare at the ceiling, replaying a conversation you had years ago. A single sentence you said suddenly feels embarrassing. Your brain begins analyzing every detail. Why did I say that? Did they think I sounded stupid? Then the thoughts shift. Now you are worrying about the future, an upcoming meeting, a decision you need to make, a message someone hasn't replied to yet. Your mind jumps from one scenario to another, building stories, predicting outcomes, imagining problems that haven't even happened. You turn to the other side of the bed and tell yourself, just stop thinking and go to sleep. But the more you try to stop the thoughts, the louder they seem to become. If this experience feels painfully familiar, you are not alone. Millions of people experience the same late-night mental spiral. And the strange truth is this: the problem is not that your brain is broken. The problem is that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, just a little too well. To understand why overthinking feels so overwhelming, we have to look at what is happening inside the brain. Because overthinking is not just a bad habit, it is the result of very specific neurological systems working together, sometimes a little too intensely. One of the key players is something called the default mode network, often shortened to the DMN. Think of the DMN as your brain's autopilot mode. When you are not focused on a specific task, like reading, working, or solving a problem, this network automatically turns on. It is responsible for mind-wandering, self-reflection, and imagining the past or the future. In a healthy brain, the DMN is incredibly useful. It allows you to learn from past experiences and mentally simulate possible outcomes before they happen. This is part of how humans plan, create, and innovate. But in the brain of someone who overthinks, the DMN becomes hyperactive. Instead of briefly reflecting and then moving on, the brain gets stuck replaying the same thoughts again and again. It is like an engine revving at full speed while the car is still in neutral. A lot of mental energy is being burned, but you are not actually moving forward. At the same time, another part of the brain becomes involved, the amygdala. This small structure acts as the brain's alarm system, constantly scanning for threats. When the amygdala detects danger, it activates the fight-or-flight response. Here is the problem. Your brain cannot always tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. When you picture failing a presentation, being rejected, or making a mistake, the brain reacts as if that event is happening right now. Your heart rate rises. Your breathing becomes shallow. Stress hormones flood your body. You are physically preparing for a danger that exists only inside your mind. If overthinking is so exhausting, a natural question appears. Why do we keep doing it? Why does the brain return to the same loops of worry again and again, even when we know it only makes us feel worse? The answer lies in a powerful psychological illusion, the illusion of control. Human beings are deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty. Our brains evolved in a world where the unknown could be dangerous. Thousands of years ago, not knowing what was hiding behind a bush could mean the difference between survival and death. Because of this, the brain developed a powerful instinct to constantly scan for potential problems before they happen. Overthinking is the modern version of that survival mechanism. When you mentally replay situations or imagine every possible outcome, your brain believes it is preparing for the future. It feels productive. It feels responsible. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice says, If I just think about this long enough, I'll figure it out. But this is where the trap appears. Overthinking rarely produces new solutions. Instead, it keeps the mind trapped in endless loops of the same questions, the same fears, and the same imagined scenarios. The brain confuses worrying with problem solving, even though the two are very different processes. Modern life makes this even worse. Social media, instant messaging, and constant comparison give the mind endless material to analyze. A message that goes unanswered for 3 hours suddenly turns into 10 different possible explanations. None of them may be true, but the brain treats each possibility as if it might be. And slowly, overthinking becomes a habit the brain returns to, because it feels like control, even when it isn't. Not everyone overthinks in the same way. Some people can let a mistake go within minutes, while others replay the same moment for years. This raises an important question. Why do some minds get stuck in overthinking more easily than others?
Why do you keep ignoring
Part
me?
of the answer often lies in early life experiences. Many chronic overthinkers grew up in environments where mistakes carried a heavy emotional cost. Perhaps they had highly critical parents, or they lived in situations where the emotional atmosphere was unpredictable. When a child learns that small mistakes can lead to criticism, disappointment, or conflict, the brain begins developing a powerful protective strategy. Anticipate everything. The mind becomes constantly alert, scanning conversations, decisions, and social interactions for possible problems. Over time, this habit can evolve into adult overthinking. Perfectionism also plays a major role. For many overthinkers, decisions feel much bigger than they actually are. A simple choice, sending a message, making a comment in a meeting, choosing a path forward, can feel like a test of their intelligence or worth. The fear of making the wrong choice becomes so strong that the brain tries to analyze every possible outcome before taking action. Another factor is emotional sensitivity. Some people naturally process emotional information more deeply. Psychologists sometimes refer to this trait as high sensitivity. These individuals notice subtle changes in tone, facial expressions, or social dynamics that others may completely miss. This heightened awareness can be a powerful strength, but without healthy boundaries in the mind, it can also create a constant flood of information, fuel for endless analysis. At first glance, overthinking can feel responsible. It feels like you are being careful, thoughtful, even intelligent. But beneath the surface, this mental habit carries hidden costs that slowly drain your energy and well-being. One of the biggest costs is decision fatigue. Your brain has a limited amount of mental energy each day. Every decision, every problem solved, every moment of focus uses a small portion of that energy. When your mind spends hours analyzing conversations, predicting outcomes, or replaying past mistakes, it burns through that energy quickly. By the time you face decisions that actually matter, your brain is already exhausted. Overthinking also traps the mind in what psychologists call a rumination loop. It usually begins with a small trigger, a comment someone made, a mistake you believe you made, or an uncertain situation. The brain interprets the event, often in a negative way. Then the replay begins. The mind returns to the same moment again and again, searching for meaning, answers, or reassurance that never fully arrives. Over time, this pattern can also damage relationships. A delayed reply to a message might be interpreted as anger. A neutral tone might be mistaken for criticism. The mind creates a story that feels completely real, even when the other person never intended it. In this way, overthinking doesn't just create stress. It quietly reshapes how we see the world and the people around us.
But seriously, the way they set up the exhibit was incredible. You have to see it.
I know.
This is a disaster. How could you let this happen? We trusted you and you failed.
Breaking the habit of overthinking does not happen by simply telling yourself to stop thinking. The mind doesn't work that way. Instead, the goal is to gently train your brain to relate to thoughts in a different way. One powerful technique comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, called cognitive diffusion. Most of the time, we treat our thoughts as facts. If the mind says, "I'm going to fail," we immediately believe it. Cognitive diffusion teaches you to step back and observe the thought instead. Instead of saying, "I will fail," try saying, "I am having the thought that I will fail." This small shift creates psychological distance and reminds your brain that a thought is just a mental event, not reality. Another helpful strategy is scheduling a daily worry time. Set aside about 15 minutes each day where you allow yourself to write down every worry that comes to mind. When anxious thoughts appear outside that window, simply remind yourself that they can wait. Over time, this trains the brain not to let worry dominate the entire day. You can also interrupt overthinking by grounding yourself in the present moment. Techniques like the 5-4-3-2-1 method, focusing on what you can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste, help bring attention back to reality. Most importantly, remember this: action breaks the cycle of overthinking. Progress matters far more than perfection. If this video helped you understand your mind a little better, consider subscribing for more psychology insights that help you build a calmer, stronger mindset. And before you go, leave a comment below. What is the most ridiculous thing your brain has ever overthought late at night? Let's talk about it together.
You can't do it.